Well, we'll get to the politics and the economics of the budget, which may have huge impact on you. But first, let's start with our top focus at this point. The Supreme Court has settled the debate over the discrepancies in the recently held NEET undergraduate examination after a marathon hearing over multiple days. A bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, has rejected petitions by a set of students seeking retest of the examinations, while acknowledging the fact that paper leaks did take place in Patna and Hazaribagh. The court has concluded that there is not enough evidence to suggest that the sanctity of the exam was compromised, nor is there any proof to suggest paper leak was on a mass scale. The CJI-led bench also remarked that cancelling the examinations at this stage would affect the career of 23 lakh students and disrupt the academic schedule, which can have a cascading effect.
माननीय सीजीआई साहब एक ऐतिहासिक फैसला सुना सकते थे। अगर आपको 24 लाख लोगों को रीनीट में नहीं डालना था, आपको क्वालिफाइड 13 लाख बच्चों को नहीं डालना था, आप कम से कम टॉप 2 लाख बच्चों को डाल देते। वो 2 लाख बच्चों में ही तो मुन्ना भाई एमबीबीएस थे। हम यही तो पहले दिन से कह रहे थे कि जो 25-30 हजार वो बच्चे जो डिजर्व नहीं करते हैं, उनने 16-16, 18 घंटे पढ़ने वाले मिडिल क्लास गरीब के बच्चे की सीट मारी है। मुझे आज बहुत दुख हो रहा है कि किस बिहाफ पे आपने 155 लोगों को रेड हैंडेड पकड़ने के बाद भी आज आपने 24 लाख परिवारों का दिल तोड़ दिया।
And I'm being joined at this point by my colleague Harish. Harish, this judgment is going to be having quite a far-fetched ramifications. There are a segment that are going to welcome this, and there are a segment that are going to be very upset with this.
Yes, that's right, Sneha. In fact, the Supreme Court was very categorical that the demand for a retest involving 24 lakh, career of 24 lakh students cannot be ordered on the basis of unverified, unsubstantiated suspicion. The Supreme Court has very clearly said that there is no material to back the claim of the petitioners that the entire exam system has been vitiated and the sanctity of the exam NEET UG exam has been compromised in entirety. The Supreme Court said that yes, there may have been leak, but from the report of the IIT Madras and also CBI report and also of the Patna police, probe report by Patna, the leak and the beneficiaries are only limited to Patna and Hazaribagh. So in fact this malaise, in fact the malpractice is not widespread. It was localized and also very localized and only in one state. And also the Supreme Court took on record the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta's statement that only 150 students were beneficiaries, and they will not only be removed from this year's exams results, but also in future also they will not be allowed to appear for NEET. And also the toppers, the toppers are evenly spread across the country in 96 centers across 56 cities. So the Solicitor General also said that the increase in marks are on account of 25% reduction in syllabus, and there is also CBI had said that there is no widespread malpractice, and also the IIT Madras report had also said that there is no widespread malpractice. So taking this consideration to fact, and this in fact this judgment is also completely in keeping in tone and tenor with the hearing. Even during the hearing, the Chief Justice had said that if it is found that the sanctity of the examination has not been affected in entirety, we will not order a retest because it involves the career of 24 lakh students, majority of them who had made it to NEET through hard work, and a majority of them are from a middle class and also poor background. So we have to consider that and also, also issue a balancing order. But what is more important is that there may be a change, shuffling of the toppers toppers list and also the merit list, because the Supreme Court also went into the NTA decision to give full marks to students who had chosen two options in a physics test, but that has also been set aside insignificantly, said that only only for the correct answer, option number 4, the marks can be given. So this order has the implication of changing the merit list and also shuffling of the toppers list. So these are the biggest
Right.
takeaways from the Supreme Court judgment.
Right.
A big decision from the Supreme Court, putting to rest the controversy, very clearly saying that there can't be a retest on the basis of unverified,
Right.
unsubstantiated suspicion.
Right. Harish, thank you very much for joining us with all of those details. In fact, we're also being joined right now by Dr. Dhruv Chauhan, who's the National Committee member for the Indian Medical Association. Thank you very much, Dr. Dhruv Chauhan. How do you look at this judgment that's coming from the Supreme Court? In fact, one thing is for sure, whether people accept this or are upset with this, at least now students know which way they are headed to.
Yeah. Firstly, I would say that I respect the decision of the Supreme Court, but also I would like to point out my views that we know that Supreme Court once said that the sanctity of the exam has been affected. But now the Supreme Court said that the sanctity of the exam has not been affected entirely in the exam. So this is not a systemic breach, as Supreme Court said. We respect whatever Supreme Court said, but my point is that when so many evidences of a leak are there right in front of them, when so many evidences are there regarding the arrests, regarding the confessions, everything we have, then can we term this leak of exam, or even if this is alleged exam, as small, big, entirely mild, moderate exam? We cannot. I personally believe that we should not be, judging any exam on the basis of leak as mild, moderate, severe, or a scam. So I personally believe that entirely or non-entirely, even if one student
Okay.
is affected by the leak of the exam, then I believe it is something we should look into.
Okay, so you're essentially saying that sanctity of the exam or the organizing body, as it were, the NTA, if it's even affected locally, if it's been compromised locally as is being stated, it still remains compromised. That's what you're trying to suggest at this point. There's also another aspect to this whole thing. There is most likely going to be a reshuffle in the merit list because, and it's interesting, Dr. Dhruv Chauhan, because students, several petitioners kept claiming there are two answers that are correct for the controversial physics question. But based on the IIT Delhi's report, the Supreme Court has gone ahead and said that there will be correct marks given to only one question and the other option to the one option, and the other option will not have negative marking. So there is likely to be a reshuffle in the merit order. Is that a correct interpretation?
Well, my first point, I also saw the yesterday judgment by Advocate Hegreji. He said that he beautifully described how we have become focused on one question, rather than the whole exam leak. Our motive should not be a single question. Rather, it should be the entire exam, the entire allegations of the leak, and the proofs coming out that states that it is not an isolated leak, that it is not an isolated leak of the exam, but we have become more focused on a single question, a single 4-mark question, than the leak of the whole exam, than the social media forwards of the exam, than the confessions of the students who said that yes, they have leaked the exam, yes, they have got the papers. Why we are not talking about those issues? That it happened. We have to be focused on that also. No? Even if it is for one student, and if one student suffers a loss due to breach in the system, be it small or big, even if it is for one, it is a loss. It is a loss to them. It is a loss to their families. but it is for a bigger scale than what I have seen. It is for a bigger scale and not just for a few particular students.
Okay, so Dr. Dhruv, while you're raising these concerns, um, I don't really have much to counter to what you are saying. These are questions that would have to be answered by the NTA for that matter, because this is a perception issue as well. Many people are raising these questions. But one question that I would want to ask you is, how would you look at what the Supreme Court has ordered in terms of no re-NEET? Because the Supreme Court very clearly saying that even though there has been paper leaks, it affects very few people when you compare it to the larger good of, say, those of 23 lakh students and their careers that are at stake. So they're trying to see which way can this go, how could this be balanced if you're looking at a few hundreds vis-a-vis the lakhs of careers that are at stake. They're saying there's a greater good in not having a re-NEET because mass scale or large scale sanctity doesn't seem to be compromised. Do you buy this judgment? Do you concur with this argument?
Well, actually, Supreme Court is the more. We cannot reject the fact that the Supreme Court is unbiased. It is not biased toward anything. But we also have to understand why Supreme Court could have given this decision. Supreme Court could have given this decision because a lot of petitions came from the students' bodies as well, that the exam should not be, cancelled, and it should not be cancelled because it has been more than 2 months.
True.
And preparing for that exam would be difficult approach.
Right.
So I definitely understand the view of Supreme Court, and I respect that. But the concerns that the students have, a large mass of students have, as well as their families have, they have lost the trust on NTA. They have lost the trust on the examination body, and this is what actually can never be regained. And this is something there is always going to be suspicious, not this year but next year to next year, every year.
No, Dr. Dhruv Chauhan, do you realize, I mean, you're the IMA National Committee member, you're speaking from a post of influence and authority. You're saying that the trust has been compromised to a position that it can never be regained. These are very, very strong words to be used, because there are also, NTA has been on the dock as well. The Supreme Court has not been light on the NTA as well. There have been mass protests against the NTA. The Supreme Court has made some very scathing observations against the NTA as well. So it's not like NTA has had a very straight cakewalk in this case, but are you still maintaining what you're saying, that the trust cannot be regained?
Well, from the perspective, I am speaking from the perspective of those students who will not be, getting the seat due to the, very high inflation of the marks. I'm speaking on behalf of them. I'm not saying for everybody, but for them at least it would be very difficult to regain the trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Dr. Dhruv, thank you very much for joining us, for giving us a very important perspective to this, for responding and reacting to what the judgment of the Supreme Court has been. Thank you very much, Dr. Dhruv, for joining us. In fact, there are going to be several reactions that will come in from the Supreme Court in this particular case, and we'll keep bringing that to you. But one thing is for sure, at least for now, this seems to be a settled score, in the sense that there's going to be no re-NEET unless, of course, there are petitions that are filed to revise this judgment.